I forgot my reading glasses at the coffee shop after meeting my daughter for lunch. A small mistake that would unravel everything I thought I knew about my family. My name is Thomas Brennan, and at 67 years old, I thought I'd seen enough of life to not be surprised anymore. I was wrong. It was a crisp October afternoon in Vancouver when Claire and I had met at Greenleaf Café, our usual spot near Stanley Park. She'd seemed distracted that day, checking her phone more than usual, but I'd chalked it up to work stress. Claire was a pharmaceutical sales rep, always busy, always on the go. We'd talked about her upcoming trip to Toronto, my recent doctor's appointment for my persistent headaches, the usual father-daughter conversation. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. I didn't realize I'd left my glasses behind until I got home to my house in Kitsilano. They were my prescription readers, expensive ones, and I needed them for everything. So I drove back to the cafe, expecting a quick in-and-out retrieval. The cafe was nearly empty when I returned. It was that quiet period between lunch and dinner rush, just after 3 in the afternoon. I walked up to the counter, where a young barista named Maya was wiping down the espresso machine. I'd seen her there before. Always friendly, always efficient. "Excuse me, I think I left my glasses here about an hour ago." Brown frames. I was sitting at the corner table with my daughter. Maya's face went pale. She glanced toward the back of the cafe, then back at me, her hands gripping the counter edge. "Mr. Brennan, right? Your daughter mentioned your name." "That's right." She hesitated, then lowered her voice to barely above a whisper. "I need to show you something. Can you come with me to the office? And please, promise me you won't panic or do anything rash." My heart started beating faster. "What's wrong? Is it about my glasses?" "It's about your daughter. Just, please come with me." I followed Maya through the staff door into a small back office cluttered with inventory boxes and a desk with an old computer. She closed the door behind us and pulled out her phone with shaking hands. "I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to show you. After you left, your daughter stayed. She made a phone call. I was cleaning the table next to yours when I heard her, and something about her tone made me, I'm sorry. I started recording. I know I shouldn't have, but something felt wrong." She pressed play on a video file. The image was shaky, taken from what must have been Maya's apron pocket level, showing the underside of a table and part of Claire's designer heels. But the audio was crystal clear. Claire's voice, my daughter's voice, the one that used to ask me to check for monsters under her bed, came through the speaker. "No, Mom, he doesn't suspect anything. The headaches are getting worse, just like we planned. He told me today his doctor wants to run more tests, but by the time they figure anything out, it'll be too late. Yes, I'm being careful with the dosage. A little bit in his coffee every morning, not enough to kill him quickly, just enough to look like natural cognitive decline." There was a pause. My legs felt weak. I grabbed the edge of the desk. Claire continued. "The neurologist will probably diagnose early onset Alzheimer's or some kind of degenerative brain disease. No one tests for this particular compound. It's not even on the standard talk screens. I've been researching this for months, Mom. Trust me. Dad's will leaves everything split between us, but with power of attorney, we can start moving assets before he's completely gone. The house alone is worth $2 million. And then there's his retirement accounts, the investment properties." Another pause as she listened. "I know you're worried, but we're hemorrhaging money. Richard's business is failing. We're 3 months behind on our mortgage, and if we don't do something soon, we're going to lose everything. Dad's pension is just sitting there. He doesn't need all that money living alone. He's 67. He's had a good life. This is our only option." The video ended. I stared at Maya's phone screen, now black, seeing my own shocked reflection in the glass. "I'm so sorry," Maya whispered. "I've been agonizing over whether to show you this all afternoon, but I couldn't just let it go. My grandmother died last year, and if someone had been, I just couldn't. I couldn't speak. My mouth opened, but no words came out. My daughter, Claire, my little girl, who I'd raised alone after my wife Sarah died of cancer 12 years ago. The daughter I'd put through university, supported through her wedding, helped with the down payment on her first house. She was poisoning me. Mr. Brennan, are you okay? Should I call someone?" I held up a hand, trying to process. The headaches. I'd been having them for about 4 months now, worsening gradually. I'd thought it was stress, maybe high blood pressure. The dizziness, the occasional confusion, the way words sometimes slipped away from me mid-sentence. I'd joked with Claire about getting old, about my brain not being what it used to be. She'd laughed. She'd agreed. She'd suggested I see a neurologist, because she wanted them to diagnose me with something untreatable, something that would explain my decline until I was too far gone to matter. "Can you send me that video?" I heard myself ask, my voice coming from somewhere far away. "Already done. I sent it to your email, the one on your loyalty account here. I also backed it up in 3 places because I was afraid of, I don't know, I just wanted to make sure it couldn't disappear. Thank you, Maya. You may have saved my life. What are you going to do?" Good question. What was I going to do? Call the police? Confront Claire? My mind was spinning, but underneath the shock, something cold and analytical was taking over. Maybe it was the 30 years I'd spent as a civil engineer, trained to solve problems systematically. Or maybe it was simple survival instinct. "I need to think," I said. "But Maya, please don't mention this to anyone. If she finds out someone knows, I don't know what she might do." Maya nodded vigorously. "I won't say anything, I promise. Your glasses are behind the counter, by the way. I set them aside when I found them." I took my glasses and drove home in a daze. The familiar streets of Vancouver seemed strange, like I was seeing them through water. Every sip of coffee I'd had that morning suddenly felt sinister in my stomach. How long had this been going on? 4 months of headaches. Had she been poisoning me for 4 months? At home, I went straight to my computer and watched Maya's video again, then again. I listened to my daughter casually discuss my murder with my ex-wife, Patricia. We'd divorced 15 years ago, not because of any dramatic falling out, but because we'd simply grown apart after Sarah died. Patricia had remarried, moved to Toronto, and we'd maintained a cordial relationship for Claire's sake. Apparently, that cordiality masked something much darker. I thought about my morning routine. Claire had convinced me 6 months ago to let her stock my kitchen with food, saying she worried about my nutrition. She'd been bringing over groceries every week, including my favorite coffee beans. Colombian roast. She knew I loved them. I walked to my kitchen and looked at the bag of coffee sitting on the counter. Such an innocent thing. Such a deadly thing. I didn't drink any more coffee that day, or the next. I poured the entire bag down the garbage disposal and watched it swirl away. But I couldn't just stop there. I needed to know what she was using, how she was doing it, and most importantly, I needed evidence that would hold up beyond a secretly recorded phone call. I also needed to understand why Patricia was involved. She'd received a generous settlement in our divorce, and she'd remarried a successful orthodontist. Why would she need my money badly enough to help murder me? The next morning, I called Claire. My hands were shaking as I held the phone, but I kept my voice steady. "Hi, sweetheart. I hate to bother you, but I've run out of that coffee you brought last week. Any chance you could pick some up? I've really developed a taste for that specific brand." "Of course, Dad." Her voice was warm, concerned. The voice of a loving daughter. "I'm actually heading to your neighborhood this afternoon. I'll drop some by around 2. How are you feeling? Still getting those headaches?" "A bit better, actually. Maybe the doctor was right about needing more sleep." "That's great, Dad. I'll see you at 2. I hung up and immediately called an old colleague, Derek Chen, who'd retired from engineering and gone into private investigation work. Some people golf in retirement. Derek surveilled cheating spouses. I'd always thought it was an odd choice, but now I was grateful for it. "Derek, I need your help with something sensitive. Very sensitive. Can you come to my house this morning before noon and bring whatever equipment you'd use to test for, I don't know, contaminants in food?" "Tom? Jesus, you sound terrible. What's going on?" "I'll explain when you get here. Please, just trust me." Derek arrived at 11 with a kit that looked like something from a crime scene investigation show. When I showed him Maya's video, his jaw dropped. "Your daughter? Tom, we need to call the police right now." "With what evidence?" "A secretly recorded phone call that might not even be admissible. I need more. I need to catch her in the act, and I need to understand the full scope of this. She mentioned her mother is involved. I need to know who else knows, who else is complicit." Derek studied me for a long moment. "You're handling this remarkably calmly for someone who just found out their daughter is trying to kill them. I'll fall apart later. Right now, I need to be smart." We set up hidden cameras in my kitchen, tiny things Derek assured me were undetectable. One focused on the counter where I kept my coffee, another on the general kitchen area. We also prepared several sealed evidence bags for whatever Claire brought. When Claire arrived at 2, I was sitting in my living room pretending to read the newspaper, my stomach in knots. Derek was parked down the street, monitoring the camera feeds on his laptop. "Dad, I'm here." Claire's voice sang out from the kitchen. So normal, so cheerful. I walked in to find her unpacking groceries. There it was, a new bag of the same Colombian coffee. "You're an angel," I said, hugging her. She felt thin in my arms, fragile. When had she gotten so thin? Had the stress of planning my murder been eating away at her too? "It's no problem, Dad. I also brought some of those protein bars you like, and I baked banana muffins last night. I know they're your favorite." Banana muffins. Sarah used to make those. Claire had learned the recipe from her mother. The thought of those muffins, which I associated with love and comfort, being turned into poison delivery systems made my stomach turn. "That's so thoughtful. Let me make us some tea." "Actually, Dad, I can't stay. I have a client meeting in 40 minutes. But you enjoy the muffins, okay? There's a dozen there. You should eat at least one a day. Keep your strength up. One a day. A steady dose." After she left, I stood in my kitchen staring at the coffee and muffins like they were vipers. Derek came in through the back door. Got everything on camera. She definitely did something to the coffee. I saw her pull out a small vial. Couldn't see exactly what, but it's on video. Let's bag this stuff and get it tested. The testing took 3 days. 3 long days where I ate nothing that Claire had brought, where I pretended everything was fine in our daily text exchanges, where I lay awake at night wondering how I'd missed the signs that my daughter was capable of this. Derek called on the 3rd day. "Tom, you need to sit down for this. Just tell me." "The compound is called dimethylmethane. It's a nerve agent, agricultural grade, usually used in very diluted forms for pest control. In the concentration found in your coffee and those muffins, it's designed to cause progressive neurological damage. Symptoms mimic several degenerative brain diseases: headaches, confusion, memory loss, eventual complete cognitive breakdown. It's almost undetectable because by the time someone thinks to look for poisoning, the victim is too impaired to advocate for themselves, and the family usually accepts a diagnosis of dementia or Alzheimer's. I felt cold all over. How long before it would have killed me? At this dosage? You'd have been severely impaired within another 2 months, completely non-functional within 6. Actual death would probably take a year, maybe 18 months. You'd waste away in a care facility while your power of attorney, presumably your daughter, liquidated your assets. Can you trace where she got this? That's where it gets interesting. Dimethylmethane in this concentration isn't something you can just buy. It requires special licensing. But I found a sales record, Tom. Your ex-wife, Patricia? Her husband, Dr. Leonard Huang. He has access through his dental practice. They use industrial-grade chemicals for sterilization, and the supplier he uses also handles pest control compounds. I think Patricia got it through him, so Leonard was involved too. Or maybe he was an unwitting accomplice, his credentials misused by his wife. Either way, the conspiracy was wider than just Claire. What do I do, Derek? You go to the police. Now. We have the video, we have the physical evidence, we have the compound identified. This is attempted murder, Tom. Premeditated, calculated, ongoing attempted murder. But I hesitated. Because Claire was still my daughter. Because once I made that call, there was no going back. Her life would be over. She'd go to prison. And part of me, the part that remembered teaching her to ride a bike and helping her with math homework and walking her down the aisle at her wedding, that part couldn't quite let go. I need to understand why first. I need to talk to her. Tom, that's insane. She's trying to kill you. I know. But I need to hear it from her. I need to know if there's any piece of my daughter left in there, or if I've already lost her completely. Against Derek's vehement protests, I called Claire that evening. Sweetheart, can you come over tomorrow? There's something important I need to discuss with you. About my will, actually. There was the briefest pause before she answered, and I wondered if I'd imagined the hint of eagerness in her voice. Of course, Dad. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. I've just been thinking about the future, about making sure you're taken care of. Can you come around 10? I'll be there. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the moments that had led here. Had I failed her somehow? Had I been too lenient, too generous? Had losing her mother at such a young age broken something in her that I'd never noticed? The next morning, Derek parked his surveillance van 2 houses down, ready to record everything. I'd also called my lawyer, Elizabeth Warren, and explained the situation. She'd been horrified but agreed to be on standby. The police were one phone call away. Claire arrived exactly at 10, carrying a thermos. "I brought you some of that herbal tea you mentioned helped with your headaches," she said, kissing my cheek. "More poison, probably." I took the thermos and set it aside. "Come, sit down, Claire. We need to talk." We sat in my living room, the same room where she'd played with dolls as a child, where she'd cried on my shoulder when her first boyfriend broke her heart, where we'd celebrated her engagement to Richard. The morning light came through the windows, and she looked so much like Sarah in that moment that it physically hurt. "Dad, you're scaring me. What's wrong?" "I know, Claire. I know what you've been doing." Her face went blank, carefully neutral. "What are you talking about?" "I know about the dimethyltrane. I know you've been poisoning me for months. I know Patricia is helping you. I know about your financial problems, about Richard's failing business, about your plan to use power of attorney to steal my assets while I deteriorated." The color drained from her face. "Dad, I don't. Who told you this? This is insane. I have video of you on the phone with your mother discussing it. I have the coffee and muffins you brought, tested by a professional lab. I have evidence of everything, Claire. So please, don't insult us both by lying." For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then something in her face changed, hardened. The mask fell away, and I saw someone I didn't recognize. "Fine. Yes, I've been giving you dimethyltrane. Are you happy? Is this what you wanted to hear?" The casual admission, the lack of remorse. It was like being punched in the chest. "Why, Claire? Help me understand why." "Why?" She laughed, a bitter sound. "Because you're sitting on millions of dollars that you don't even need. You live in this house alone. You don't travel. You don't do anything. Meanwhile, Richard and I are drowning. We're about to lose our house, Dad. Our house. The one you helped us buy, remember? Well, Richard's investments went south, and then his business partners screwed him over, and now we're buried under debt. You could have asked me for help." "Asked? Like I've been asking for the past year? You gave us $20,000 last Christmas, Dad. $20,000. That didn't even cover 2 months of what we owe. We need real money. And you just keep saying you're worried about giving us too much, that we need to learn to manage our finances better. So you decided to kill me instead. You're 67 years old. You've lived a good life. You had a career, you had love, you had Mom, and then Sarah. What do Richard and I have? Debt, shame, failure. This was supposed to be our life, Dad. We were supposed to be successful, happy, but we can't get there without capital. And you're hoarding it all like some kind of dragon sitting on gold. I'm hoarding the money I worked my entire life to earn, the money I was planning to leave you anyway when I actually died of natural causes. When? When would that be? You're healthy, Dad. You could live another 20 years. We don't have 20 years. We don't have 2 years. We need help now. I looked at this woman, my daughter, and tried to find any trace of the person I'd raised. And Patricia? What's her stake in this? Claire's laugh was sharp. "Oh, Mom's broke too. Turns out Leonard has a gambling problem. They're mortgaged to the hilt, and the dental practice is barely staying afloat. She needs her share just as badly as I do. So the two of you decided to murder me. It's not murder if you were just going to die eventually anyway. We're just accelerating the timeline, and you wouldn't have suffered, Dad. You'd have just slowly forgotten everything, gone peaceful in some care home, thinking you were back in the 1980s or something." The detachment in her voice was chilling. This wasn't a momentary breakdown, wasn't a crime of passion. This was calculated, rationalized, justified in her own mind. "Did Richard know?" She hesitated. "No. He knows we're getting an inheritance soon, but he doesn't know how soon or why. I didn't want to burden him with the details. At least one person in her life was innocent of this. What happens now, Dad? Are you going to call the police?" "I should. You understand that I should, right? You tried to kill me, Claire. Your own father. I'm trying to save my life. Can't you understand that? Richard and I were good people who made some bad investments. We don't deserve to lose everything while you sit here in your paid-off house with your pension and your retirement accounts. It's not fair. So you'll poison me instead? That's your definition of fair? What I did was practical. Ruthless, maybe, but practical. You taught me to be a problem solver, Dad. Remember, you always said that engineers look at problems and find solutions. Well, I found a solution. I stood up, my legs shaky. Get out of my house. Dad, get out. I can't look at you right now. I can't even breathe the same air as you. What are you going to do? I'm going to call my lawyer. I'm going to change my will. And then I'm going to decide whether to call the police or just let you live with what you've done. You wouldn't turn in your own daughter. You poisoned your own father. I guess we're both discovering what we're capable of. Claire stood, her handbag clutched tight. If you go to the police, it'll destroy our family. Everyone will know. Is that what you want? To humiliate us publicly? You destroyed our family the moment you put poison in my coffee. Everything after this is just consequences. She left without another word. I stood at the window and watched her drive away, this stranger who wore my daughter's face. Derek came in from the van. Got every word recorded. Tom, you need to call the police now. She's admitted to everything. I know, but I didn't call them. Not that day. Instead, I called my lawyer and changed my will. Everything I had, the house, the investments, the retirement accounts, all of it went to charity. The Vancouver Food Bank, the Cancer Society in memory of Sarah, scholarships for engineering students. Claire and Patricia would get nothing. Then I called Patricia in Toronto. Thomas, this is unexpected. I know what you and Claire have been doing. I know about the dimethylethane. I have evidence, recordings, lab tests, everything. Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, are you calling the police? That depends. I want to know if Leonard knows. No. God, no. He'd divorce me if he knew I'd used his credentials to obtain restricted chemicals. He has no idea. And you were willing to kill me for money? After everything we shared? After Sarah? Her voice cracked. I'm desperate, Thomas. Leonard's gambling debts. We're talking hundreds of thousands. There are dangerous people involved. I thought if I could just get my share of your estate, I could pay them off, save my marriage, save our lives. So you'd take mine instead. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I was out of options. You had the option of not being a murderer. That was always an option, Patricia. I hung up. For days, I wrestled with what to do. The evidence sat in Derek's safe. The recordings backed up in multiple locations. One phone call, and both Claire and Patricia would be arrested. They'd go to prison. Their lives would be over. But they were still my daughter and my ex-wife, the mother of my first child. Though Sarah was gone now. And some part of me couldn't quite make that final step. In the end, I didn't call the police. Instead, I did something else. I contacted both Claire and Patricia and arranged a meeting with my lawyer present. I laid out what I knew, showed them copies of the evidence, and explained the new terms of their lives. I'm not going to the police, I said, watching the relief flood their faces. But understand this is not mercy. This is me protecting myself and ensuring justice. I slid documents across the table. These are legal agreements. You will both sign them. Claire, you will never contact me again. No calls, no visits, nothing. You are out of my life completely. Patricia, same terms. You'll both sign affidavits confessing to what you've done, which will be held by my lawyer in a sealed file. If anything happens to me, anything at all, even a genuine accident, those confessions go straight to the police, along with all the evidence. Dad, please. I'm not your father anymore. I'm the man you tried to murder. Sign the papers. They signed. Additionally, I've changed my will. Everything goes to charity. You get nothing. When I die, whether that's next year or in 20 years, you won't see a cent. You tried to steal my life for money, so the money is gone. Seems fitting. Claire's face was pale. We'll lose everything. Yes, you will. Maybe you'll learn what actually matters. Maybe you won't. I don't care anymore. Is there anything we can do to make this right? Patricia asked quietly. I looked at both of them, these two women I'd once loved in different ways, now strangers I couldn't trust with a cup of coffee. No, there's nothing. You can live with what you've done. That's your punishment. Every day for the rest of your lives, You'll know you were willing to slowly poison someone who loved you. You'll know you valued money more than human life. And you'll know that when you actually needed help, instead of asking for it like decent people, you chose murder. Live with that. Let it eat at you the way that dimetrothane was supposed to eat at my brain. That was 6 months ago. I haven't heard from Claire since. Patricia sent one email, apologizing again, which I deleted without responding. Richard called once, confused about why his wife wouldn't speak to me. I told him to ask Claire, that it was between us. He sounded worried, and I felt bad for him. He was an innocent victim in his wife's scheme. The headache stopped within 2 weeks of me stopping the coffee and muffins. My thinking cleared. The occasional confusion faded. I was lucky. Another month or two, and the damage might have been permanent. I still go to Greenleaf Café every week. I always request Maya's section, and I tip her generously. She saved my life. This young barista who barely knew me, but cared enough to risk herself by recording that conversation and showing it to me. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if she'd minded her own business, if she'd thought it wasn't her place to interfere in family matters. I'd be in a memory care facility by now, or dead, while Claire and Patricia liquidated my life's work. The house is quiet these days. Quieter than before, because before I'd had the illusion of family, of my daughter's regular visits and care packages. Now I know what those visits really were, but I've made peace with it. I have friends, my engineering alumni group, my volunteer work at the food bank. Life goes on. Sometimes people ask me if I regret not sending them to prison. The answer is complicated. Part of me thinks they deserved it. Part of me knows that living with what they've done, with the loss of their inheritance and the knowledge of how far they fell morally, might be a worse punishment than a few years in jail. And part of me just didn't want to be the father who put his own daughter behind bars, even though she tried to kill me. I'm not sure which part is right. What I do know is this: money changes people. Desperation changes people. And sometimes the people we think we know best are capable of things we never imagined. Trust is a precious thing, easily shattered and impossible to rebuild. I loved my daughter more than my own life, and she was willing to take my life for money. If there's a lesson in all this, it's to pay attention. To the small signs, the inconsistencies, the moments when someone's words don't match their actions. To speak up when something feels wrong, like Maya did. To value life and relationships over money and possessions. To ask for help before desperation drives you to unforgivable choices. And maybe, most importantly, to understand that having wealth comes with responsibility, but also with risk. People you trust, people you love, they can see you differently when money is involved. Not always, but sometimes. And that sometimes is enough to be cautious. I'm 78 now, or I will be next month. I'm healthy, thanks to catching the poisoning when I did. I'll probably live another 10 or 15 years. And somewhere out there, Claire is living her life, dealing with her debts, knowing that the inheritance she murdered for is going to feed the homeless and fund cancer research instead. I hope she thinks about that every day. I hope it haunts her, not because I'm cruel, but because I hope it changes her. I hope she becomes someone who would never do that again, who values human life over money, who understands what she nearly destroyed. My daughter is lost to me. But maybe, just maybe, she can save herself from the person she became. As for me, I'm going to live my life on my own terms, for however many years I have left. I'm going to donate my time and eventually my money to causes that matter. I'm going to drink coffee without fear. And I'm going to remember that family is supposed to be built on love, not inheritance plans. But first, where in the world are you hearing this story? What's your experience with family and trust? Have you ever had someone you loved betray you in a way you never saw coming? Let me know in the comments. And remember to like and subscribe if you want to hear more stories about life's hard lessons. Because if my story teaches anything, it's that life can surprise you in the worst ways. But survival, real survival, isn't just about staying alive. It's about staying true to who you are, even when everyone around you has lost their way. Stay safe out there, trust carefully, and never, ever take anything for granted, especially the people who have access to your morning coffee.